Welcome back. So, Police Commissioner Kehla Sitole says the police have enough capacity and resources to deal with the current situation. Members of the SANDF have been deployed to assist. You've seen visuals of more of them arriving in Alexandra, but we've seen police being outnumbered as looters grabbed almost everything from shops in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. So does this point towards our police failing to deal with the violent protests? Let's bring in Ziyanda Stuurman, who is a researcher at the Afro-barometer, and Ziyanda has actually recently released a book, The Future of Policing in South Africa. Ziyanda, thank you so much for making time. You heard what the police said earlier today, our security cluster ministers. Are you convinced? They seem to believe they've got the resources to respond and they are fully capacitated to deal with the situation on the ground, even though what we're seeing is totally different. What do you make of what they said, contrary to what we see on the ground?
So I think that there are multiple sort of factors at play, and I wouldn't be surprised if, obviously law enforcement doesn't want to sort of give away their hand and give too many details. It may look to us that the situation is sort of deteriorating or still hasn't been brought under control. But I'm sure that there's a very specific strategy in terms of rollout of police resources, and particularly where they would be and where they would be placed. So I don't want to sort of guess and say that there aren't enough resources. I'm sure that there's a much sort of deeper and more intricate plan that we're not privy to at this point.
Yeah. You have written a book about the future of policing in South Africa. What are your reflections of what we have seen over the last couple of days and how the police have responded?
I think that a key argument, that I make in the book that has become more and more sort of relevant and has come to the fore over the past couple of days really is the fact that, we can't police our way out of inequality, poverty, and unemployment. If we're not getting to the deepest roots of the causes of all three of those phenomenon, then, we can call on the police and we can call on the military multiple times over again, given the high levels of again, inequality, poverty, and unemployment. So this is not, those issues and those social issues are not solved by the police, but we're certainly not in these circumstances either, going to be able to turn to the police and the military over and over and over again to deal with what is really a growing problem and that has been worsened by the pandemic.
What do you think is the role of crime intelligence, and was that role played effectively when you look at how the police and our security apparatus have responded to what's happening on the ground? Today, as the security cluster ministers were briefing the media, they confirmed that they're now investigating whether there are people within the SAP, the security agencies, or even those that are former agents that may have, played a role in agitating people on the ground and creating this chaos that we are seeing. Do you think the role of intelligence, whether you talk in crime intelligence or state security agency, was quite critical here? Are what we're seeing the result of an effective intelligence service?
So I think in order to answer that question, we'd have to sort of have a bit of a retrospective and really understand that our crime intelligence apparatus and infrastructure was severely compromised during the sort of years of state capture. Immediately think of acolytes and appointments like Richard Mdluli that really showed that a lot of that intelligence apparatus was used to hound political opponents of Jacob Zuma and his cronies at the time. And so those institutions are still struggling to recover from that time. I wouldn't be surprised if there are loyalists and people who still very much believe in Jacob Zuma and in that faction of the ANC. And what we're then seeing is the weakness and the erosion of those sectors and of those intelligence services over the years has truly come to the fore in this situation right now, because they should have been capacitated and able to act proactively and to see this threat coming.
Yeah, 2,500 soldiers deployed on the ground. We saw more and more of them arriving in Alexandra. There are more that started arriving in Pietermaritzburg yesterday. How big a difference do you think this is going to make, given how widespread the looting and these criminal elements are?
So in terms of the authorization for this deployment, really what the military is going to be doing is augmenting particularly the sort of anti-riot units and public order policing units of the police. So that allows them to either do static operations where they're supporting the police in roadblocks or blockades or other, again, sort of static and stationary operations. And that's what that does is then allow the police to go into sort of active or more active or fluid and dynamic situations, which the military doesn't necessarily have training to do. So in that sense, this becomes almost a case of backup, as opposed to the military proactively sort of going out. And they've been equipped with live ammunition, but they're also under very strict orders not to fire. Unless their own lives are threatened. So in that sense, I think that there is a very sort of close coordination between the police and the military, but also an incredibly limited mandate that the SANDF has.
Yeah, thank you for chatting to us. Ziyanda Stuurman is a researcher at Afro-barometer. She